I'm Larry Diaz. I'm 74 years old. My wife Ann and I have decided to leave virtually nothing to our 3 children and 4 grandchildren when we're gone. And before you think I'm a miser or that we're estranged, let me be clear. We love them more than anything. This is the hardest, most loving decision we've ever made. Let me tell you what happened. It all started to become clear last fall, right after my birthday. It was my 74th birthday dinner. The whole family was there at our house in Riverside. Kids, grandkids, the noise, the love. Ann had made her famous lasagna. I looked around that table and I felt a deep pride. I thought, I provided this safety, this stability. I went to bed that night feeling like I'd done my job as a father. But later I got up for a glass of water. The house was quiet, and I overheard a conversation that changed everything. My son Michael, my oldest, was in the kitchen with his sister Sarah. He was talking low, stressed about a big promotion at work, a huge step up, and he said, worst case, Dad's portfolio will cover the kids' college. We can just wait it out. He said it like a relief, like a pressure valve releasing. But to me, a man who spent 35 years as a cop, facing things head on, it sounded like a surrender. His ambition had a ceiling, and I realized, sitting there in the dark hallway, that I had built it. That comment stuck with me for days, like a pebble in my shoe. And then, a week later, my grandson Leo brought it all into focus. I was in my den, organizing my old stamp albums. It's a hobby I've had since I was a boy. Leo, he's 10, he was watching me. He asked, "What are those worth, Grandpa?" I got excited. I started showing him stamps from countries that don't even exist anymore, explaining the history, the patience it takes. He cut me off. "Yeah, but Grandpa," he said, "how much money can you get for it?" He didn't want the collection. He didn't want the stories. He just wanted the price tag. That question hit me right in the gut. That was the 1-2 punch. I couldn't shake it. So, about a month later, I called a meeting. Just my 3 kids, no spouses. I was nervous. I floated the idea carefully. What if your mom and I spent more of our savings enjoying our last years, traveled more, gave more to charity? The room didn't erupt in anger. It went cold, a silent, bewildered panic. My daughter Sarah, she's a therapist. She's usually so articulate. She just said softly, "Dad, that's our security. That's the plan." And it hit me. I wasn't just their father anymore. I had become a line item in their financial plan, a guarantee. I left that meeting more confused than ever. Were we wrong? Were they entitled? The weight of it followed me everywhere, even to my favorite escape. Ann and I were out at the golf course. It's our quiet place. I shanked a shot into the woods. As we were looking for the ball, I finally poured it all out. Leo's question, the kids' panic. I expected her to reassure me, to tell me I was overthinking it. Instead, she stopped looking for the ball. She put her hand on my arm and said, "Larry, we gave them everything except the one thing you got from your father. Nothing." She let that hang in the air. My dad, he was a mechanic. He died with more debts than assets. And she was right. The struggle to build this life from scratch, that was the making of me. I thought about it all the way home. He couldn't pay for my college. I worked the night shift as a security guard to get through the academy. Every promotion on the force, this house in Riverside, the pension, the savings, I built it. Ann built it with me. The struggle wasn't a curse, it was the foundation. We'd worked so hard to spare our kids that struggle, we'd accidentally robbed them of the chance to build their own. That conversation with Ann was the turning point. The confusion lifted, replaced by a hard, clear conviction. We had to change the plan. We started talking about it in earnest, not just as a worry, but as a decision. We sat at our kitchen table, the same one where we'd fed the kids 1,000 meals, and we made a new list. It wasn't about what we'd leave behind. It was about what we'd do now. We weren't going to cut the kids off. That was important to us. We'd already helped. Sarah's graduate school, Michael's down payment after the housing crash, our youngest David's startup that didn't pan out. We didn't regret that, but the bulk of it, the nest egg we'd been so diligently adding to for decades, we decided we'd use it to live fully now, to create memories with them, not just a bank statement for after we're gone. And what's left, it won't go to them. We found a local youth program in Springfield, the one over on Main Street that teaches carpentry, auto repair, coding, real trades to kids who don't have a plan B. Kids who start with nothing, just like I did. That felt right. It felt like building again, not just handing over a finished product. Making the decision was one thing. Making it legal, making it real was another. That meant a very uncomfortable meeting with our estate lawyer, Frank. We've been with him for 20 years. Yesterday we sat in his office with a big mahogany desk. I saw the confusion in his eyes as he went over the final documents. The same look I'd seen in my kids. He kept tapping the page. Larry, Ann, you're sure? This is a significant departure from your previous will. The trust for the grandchildren is essentially dissolved. Ann just nodded. She was calmer than I was. I said, "We're sure, Frank." He leaned back. "May I ask, is there a problem with the children? Should we be considering an incentive trust, something with stipulations?" And that's when I really got it. Even Frank, a professional, could only see this as a punishment, a reaction to some failure. He couldn't see it as a gift. I said, "No, Frank, it's the opposite. There's no problem. This is the incentive." We signed. When I put the pen down, I expected to feel a heavy guilt, this final irrevocable step. Instead, I felt that weight lift, the weight of being a line item, a guarantee. It was replaced by a nervous hope, fluttering right under my ribs. We weren't ending their story with a period. We were handing them the pen. Driving home, with the signed documents in a folder on the back seat, it all crystallized for me. This wasn't about money. It was about a fundamental mistake we'd made as parents. We confused providing with parenting. You see, I thought being a good father, a good provider, was about removing obstacles. I spent my career seeing the worst-case scenarios, so I wanted to build a fortress for my family. But a fortress keeps things out, and it also keeps things in. We thought the ultimate gift was a smooth, paved road, but the real gift is the strength, the skill, the courage to navigate a rough one. An inheritance can be a closed door labeled the end, but teaching someone how to build, how to value what they build, that's a door that opens onto a whole new world. We gave them the treasure map, but forgot to teach them how to read it. So if you're watching this and it's stirring something in you, here's what I've learned. You still have time. It's not about disinheriting your kids in some fit of pique. It's about redefining what you're leaving behind. Start the conversation. And I don't mean a big scary announcement. I mean small talks. Talk to your kids about money, not just amounts, but values, the dignity of a budget, the pride of a paid-off debt. Let them see you make a tough financial choice. Give them the tools, not just the treasure. And for God's sake, spend your money on experiences with them while you're here. I'm not talking about fancy cruises necessarily. I'm talking about taking your grandson fishing and talking about life. A memory of a trip, a struggle you faced together, a lesson learned. That's a legacy that doesn't get taxed or fought over in probate court. It won't be easy. They might not understand. When we told the kids about the new will last week, it was quiet. Michael looked at the floor. Sarah had tears in her eyes, but she nodded slowly. David, my practical one, just asked, "Are you guys okay, health-wise?" They were scared, for themselves and for us. They might get upset later. That's okay. But this might just be the thing that sets them free. They were scared, for themselves and for us. They might get upset later. That's okay. But this might just be the thing that sets them free. And then, a few days after we told them, I had the moment. The one that made all of this real and showed me exactly what we'd almost lost. I was back in my den. The stamp albums were still out. I was just sitting there, looking at them, not organizing, just looking. And Leo came in, my 10-year-old grandson. He didn't say anything at first. He just stood next to my chair. I thought maybe he was still thinking about the money. Then he pointed at a page. It was my collection of U.S. airmail stamps from the 1930s, the big colorful ones with the old biplanes. "That one's cool," he said, quietly. I didn't launch into a speech. I just said, "Yeah, it is." I waited. He pointed again. "How'd you get it?" So I told him. Not what it was worth, how I got it. I was 13. I'd mowed lawns for 2 whole summers to save up for a specific album. My dad drove me to a stamp show in Hartford. It was just the 2 of us. I remember the smell of the old church basement where it was held, the sound of the dealers talking in low voices. I bought this stamp from an old man with a magnifying glass glued to his glasses. He told me the plane on it was called a Jenny. I paid for it with cash I'd saved in a coffee can. My dad put his hand on my shoulder when I handed the money over. He didn't say, "Good investment." He said, "That's yours now. You earned that." I told Leo all of that, the mowing, the coffee can, the smell, my dad's hand on my shoulder. And Leo listened. He really listened. He climbed up into the other chair. "Did Grandpa Diaz like stamps?" he asked. And I had to smile. No, not at all. He thought it was a weird way to spend money. But he drove me there because I loved it. Leo looked at the stamp for a long time. "So it's not about the plane." "What do you mean?" "It's about you being a kid and your dad taking you. That's the story." He said it so simply, and that's when it broke me. Not in a bad way, in a clean way, like a bone that's been set wrong, finally being broken so it can heal straight. I felt my eyes fill up. This kid, this 10-year-old boy, had just understood the entire point of my life's work in a way my own children, through no real fault of their own, had never been forced to understand. Because I'd given my children the stamp, I'd just handed it to them. I'd never given them the chance to mow the lawns, save the coffee can money, or feel their own father's hand on their shoulder at the moment they bought something with their own effort. I'd given them the treasure and thrown away the map. I'd given them the ending and skipped the story. "Yeah, Leo," I said, my voice thick. "That's the story." He looked at me, so I was upset. Kids are so perceptive. "It's a good story, Grandpa." I reached over and messed up his hair. "It is. And you know what? This album, all of them, they're yours someday, not to sell, to have, to remember the stories." He nodded, serious. Okay, that was it. That was the moment. After he left, I sat there in the quiet den and I cried. I cried for the struggle I'd been so proud of, the one I'd worked so hard to make obsolete for my kids. I cried because I saw so clearly that in my diligence, in my desire to be the provider my own father couldn't be, I had made my love into a safety net that was also a cage. Michael's "wait it out" wasn't laziness. It was the logical result of a lifetime of being told, "Don't worry, I've got it." Sarah's "that's the plan" wasn't entitlement. It was trust in a blueprint I had drawn for her. I had been so busy building a fortress to keep the world out, I hadn't noticed I'd built it around them. And I thought about Anne's words on the golf course. "We gave them everything except the one thing you got from your father, nothing." That nothing was the empty space where I had to build myself. It was the blank page. I'd given my kids a pre-printed book and then wondered why they weren't writers. The guilt was immense, but it was a different kind of guilt now. It wasn't guilt about changing the will. It was guilt about the 30 years of parenting that led to the need for it. I'd followed the script of my generation. Work hard, save, leave something behind, without ever asking what that something really was. I realized it wasn't money. It was capacity. It was resilience. It was the quiet knowledge in your own gut that says, "I built this." And I hadn't given them that. I'd been too busy building it for them. So when people ask, "Aren't you worried they'll resent you?" I am. Of course I am. But I'm more worried about the resentment that comes later, the quiet kind that you can't even name, the resentment toward a life that feels unearned, a path that feels borrowed, a sense of self that's tied to a bank account you didn't fill. I'm more worried about that than I am about them being mad at me. I can live with them being mad at me for a while. I couldn't live with myself knowing I cheated them out of the one thing that made my own life mean something, the struggle that forged me. That's the devastating kindness. We thought we were being kind by building the road, but the real kindness would have been teaching them how to lay the pavement. That's the devastating kindness. We thought we were being kind by building the road, but the real kindness would have been teaching them how to lay the pavement. Here's what I understand now, sitting here in my den with my stamp albums closed. I spent 35 years as a cop, seeing what happens when people have no safety net. So I built one for my family. I thought that was the ultimate act of love. But I built it so well, so diligently, that my kids never had to learn how to walk the tightrope. They never had to feel that exhilarating, terrifying balance between risk and reward. I gave them a floor, but I also gave them a ceiling. Michael's waited out wasn't laziness. It was the logical, rational choice in a world where the floor was always there. Sarah's "that's the plan" wasn't greed. It was trust in the blueprint I drew. I was the architect of their security, and I never asked them if they wanted to design their own building. I was wrong, not about wanting to provide, but about what providing really means. It doesn't mean giving them a finished house. It means teaching them how to use the tools, how to read the plans, and having the courage to watch them build something that might look completely different from what you imagined. My father gave me nothing but a strong back and the expectation that I'd use it. That nothing was the blank page. It was the greatest gift he could have given me, even though it felt like hardship at the time. I gave my kids a pre-written book, and then I was confused when they weren't authors. So here's my advice, for what it's worth, from a 74-year-old retired cop from Riverside. If you're building a legacy, think hard about what that word means. A legacy isn't a stack of money. A legacy is a set of values, a work ethic, a resilience that lives in your children's bones long after you're gone. Talk to your kids about money, yes, but talk about the sweat that earned it. Talk about the fear you felt taking out your first mortgage and the pride you felt burning it. Show them your budget, your charitable giving, the choices you make. Give them the dignity of struggle while you're still here to be their coach, not their safety net. Help them when they truly need it. A medical crisis, a genuine disaster, but let them feel the weight of a calculated risk. Let them fail while the stakes are still manageable. Your job isn't to prevent the fall. Your job is to make sure they know how to get back up. And for God's sake, spend the money on them now, not on things, but on time. Take the trip. Have the big noisy family reunion. Create the memories that become the stories they tell. I'm going to take Leo to a stamp show. I'm going to show him the coffee can money, the patience, the stories. That's what I'm leaving him. That memory, that lesson. That's a legacy that compounds. A bank account just gets divided. You still have time. Maybe your kids are grown. Maybe they're already expecting an inheritance. It's not too late to change the conversation. It will be uncomfortable. They might not understand. They might get angry. That's okay. Love isn't about being comfortable. It's about doing what you genuinely believe is best for them, even when it's hard. Start small. Be honest. Tell them you're rethinking what it means to leave them prepared for life. This isn't about pulling the rug out from under them. It's about showing them they have their own 2 feet. This channel, from what I understand, is about people sharing hard-won lessons from a life lived. If this story, my story, resonated with you, if it made you think about your own kids, your own parents, the legacy you're building, then I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications. There are other people here with other stories, and you might find something in them that helps you navigate your own path. Leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you think. Do you agree? Disagree? Have you had this conversation in your own family? I'll read them. I'm new to this, but Anne says we should engage. If what I said hit home, hit the like button. It lets the folks who run this channel know that these real stories matter. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, a friend who's stressed about their will, a sibling who's counting on an inheritance, share this video with them. Maybe it'll start a conversation that needs to happen. And if you've got a story of your own, something you've learned the hard way that could help someone else, there's a link in the description where you can submit it. Maybe your story will be the one that helps a grandfather like me or a young parent just starting out. We learn from each other. A book that helped Anne and me frame some of these thoughts is The Opposite of Spoiled by Ron Lieber. It's not about estates. It's about raising kids with financial sense. There's a link to it below if you're interested. In the end, this isn't about money. It's about love. It's about believing in your children enough to give them the one thing that truly lasts. The unshakable knowledge that they are capable, that they can build their own life, write their own story, and find their own worth. That's the inheritance I wish I'd given them from the start. It's the one I'm trying to give them now. Thanks for listening. Think about it.